Good evening. It's July 21st, 2022. The LiveWire SPAC with AEA Bridges Impact Corp is coming along. They keep filing with the SEC. This is the third S4 report that I've seen from them on their webpage. Each one is about 1,000 pages long, so it's kind of a lot to read. I'm kind of surprised at a lot of the information that's in here. Even things like the name of every single employee at LiveWire is listed in the appendice, and just all kinds of information that I'm not used to seeing. But it's got all the financial information, all the unit sales information. It's got their strategies. It's got everything you could possibly have in 1,000 pages. And after reading it all, three different versions, I'm actually quite worried. So my video is titled LiveWire Pause the SPAC. So after looking at this carefully, I think there's several things that are going on. They're going to be a giant problem moving forward with the LiveWire SPAC. So I listed them out here. It's basically a combination of bad market timing and unresolved issues at LiveWire. Now, I don't know how much of you can see on your screen. With a phone, it might be hard to read, but this year the S&P index is down 21%, so we're in a bear market. The SPAC stocks are down 60% in 2022. Del Mar is not a competitive motorcycle with other electric motorcycles that are out there, and the Del Mar is a big part of the SPAC and LiveWire's future. The LiveWire 1 is missing its sales targets. LiveWire has a murky marketing and sales strategy, which doesn't work, I think, as well as it should be working. They have incomplete financial statements in terms of the way they're reporting the information in this filing. They have incomplete risk assessments. They have hundreds and hundreds of things listed that could go wrong, but the main things that could go wrong aren't even listed, so I'll cover those. And then I'm concerned about exorbitant filing fees. Now, what I mean by this is to maintain a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange, you have to do an enormous amount of accounting and legal work, which I believe could easily be $1 million a year just for the paperwork, and I'm wondering if it's really going to be worth it. If you have an unsuccessful SPAC, you bring in a bunch of shareholders that can sue you for various reasons. You have a lot of administrative costs with the filing fees, and I'm just not sure that it makes sense right now, especially when SPACs are kind of out and the market is in a bear market situation. So first of all, let's talk about Del Mar not being competitive. Now, I've made 3 videos about this, which you can go back and look. But basically, Del Mar does not fast charge. Now, after fast charge, I mean DC fast charge. Now, after reading all the filings, there's nothing in there to indicate that Del Mar is going to fast charge. Everything points to what Harley released at the Del Mar launch, which is level 2 charging, which is completely inadequate and basically, I believe, will cause the product or the Del Mar to bomb and not be successful. So I was going through on YouTube and various sites, and I was taking a look at the DC fast charging situation on motorcycles. And a lot of people don't know this, but when the LiveWire came out in 2019, it was the only motorcycle from anybody that could successfully fast charge. Now, Energica was saying that they could fast charge, but in reality, they couldn't fast charge more than once or twice before the battery would overheat and it wouldn't be workable. So it wasn't until the 2022 model year, when they had a motorcycle that could successfully continuously fast charge, and that's why it took until this spring for Energica to do a coast-to-coast cannonball run, because before that, their machines could even go LA to Vegas without overheating. So they had an overheating problem. Zero introduced the SRS and SRF. Neither of those could fast charge. And Triumph and Ducati have been trying to build prototype electric motorcycles, and they've had the same issue with overheating with the bikes. So it's a giant problem. Harley originally solved it with a LiveWire by using prismatic batteries, which have different thermal properties and are able to charge and discharge without getting too hot. But that's that's a topic for another video. What I want to talk about right now is this video, which came up on the internet on April 1st. That's over 3 months ago. This video came up on the internet. Now this is from a YouTuber called Zero Land. So he used to be all about Zero, now he's about Energica, but he posted this video 3 months ago on YouTube. I'll explain to you what actually has happened since then, but I want you to watch the video, so please listen carefully.
Hey, welcome back to New Zero Land. So this is a video I never thought I would make. I guess because I never thought it would actually happen. Zero motorcycles are finally gonna have DC fast charging. That's right, the new bikes are gonna have a CCS port. So I'm walking to the airport right now because I'm on my way to the US to get a first look, kind of like a exclusive test ride on their new bike. I'm so excited because this is huge news. A few months ago when Zero announced their unlockable features, we all hated it, right? Not a single person liked it. Okay, except for maybe this guy. So we all focused on how shady the Cypher store was, but I feel like we missed one of the coolest things that they added to the new bikes. The engineers added active cooling, and this wasn't just for the current models to make it so the batteries don't overheat. This was part of a master plan that Zero had to get all of the bikes ready for when they had DC fast charging. And now they do. See you later, Windy Wellington.
Okay, now, I guess we're gonna go back to that previous slide. What I did is I went through and I followed the journey, and his plan was to pick up the Zeros in California and ride to Seattle, Washington. And for some reason, that didn't happen. I'm not sure exactly why, but that trip never took place. And the people that the guy that he was supposed to do the trip with was Zero, wound up doing a cannonball run from Los Angeles to New York on an Energica. Now, this video is also not hooked into his main page anymore. It's kind of an orphan that I found on a search engine, but this was April 1st. So how long do you think it's going to be before Zero announces this? I mean, they're talking about, or this video talks about them doing it on, all their bikes, not just the bigger ones like the SRS and F, but obviously the mid-size bikes. So we're going to run into a situation where Harley is going to come out with a level 2 charged bike, which is like, it's just, I mean, it's so, I can't even imagine why they would do that. The other thing too, which kind of irks me, is LiveWire is bragging about the fact that they sold 100 Del Mars in 18 minutes, the founders ones, which I actually am in on that. I went to the website and was able to get a founders edition bike. But when that happened, that was before LiveWire told everyone that this was a level 2 charging bike. Everybody just assumed it'd be level 3 because it's the only thing that makes sense, and they have level 3 on the LiveWire 1. So everybody that's got a reservation, and those first 100 people that jumped in real quick to get a bike, were under the impression that it was going to be DC fast charging, and it's not. So I think there's going to be some serious problems here. If LiveWire comes out on a SPAC and then comes out with a bike that is this far technologically behind everything else when it releases, the shareholder lawsuits are going to be off the chart. I mean, it's malpractice to come out with a level 2 bike on the Del Mar. Now, I realize that it's all engineered, it's all done, and in the filing, they talk about all the reasons why it makes sense and being able to have different vendors for the batteries and on, but it's not viable, and you need to pause the SPAC and re-engineer the bike or do whatever you need to do to bring it up to date and make it current so it can DC fast charge. Either put a massive cooling system on it like I guess Zero has done and Energica has done, or use the prismatic batteries like the LiveWire 1 and do it that way so you don't have to have extra cooling. But anyway, this is a giant problem and reason enough to pause the SPAC. Okay, let's get into the other issues. LiveWire 1 is missing its sales targets. Now, when you go back to the original when you go back to the original December 2021 investor presentation, the PDF file you can get off the internet, they're forecasting in 2022 957 LiveWire 1s in 2022. Now, when you look at the most recent filing, which was July 8th of this year, a couple weeks ago, the filing shows that in the first quarter of 2022, they sold 150 LiveWire 1s. So, I mean, I understand that's kind of the slow season, but it's a long way between 157 and 957. So they're going to have to be smoking it in the other 3 quarters to make that number. They also show that they did 962 LiveWire 1s in all of 2021, which is a pretty good number. 719 sold in 2020. So in 2020 and 2021, I guess they got about 1,600 and some odd bikes out there. And then this year, they're planning to add another 957. It doesn't look like from the first quarter information that they're going to make it. So I'm concerned that the Del Mar is going to flop and that they're going to go to the IPO with LiveWire 1 sales not making the forecast. Now, I want to talk about LiveWire's murky marketing and sales strategy. And I find this really frustrating because Tesla has kind of shown everyone how to sell electric vehicles. I don't know why LiveWire just can't copy. Just to give you a feeling for it, Tesla always leads with the environment and the cost of the car and everything else, and LiveWire refuses to talk about it on their website, although they do talk about it in the filing. But to give you an example of what I mean by murky marketing and sales strategies, there's no customer referral program for LiveWire. That was the program that put the Model S with a Tesla over the top. Everybody that got one got free supercharging if they, for a year or something, if they referred it to another customer. Everybody did videos, and all of the customers all became advocates, and they helped Tesla sell those cars. They absolutely did. And they've got, I guess, 1,600 LiveWire owners out there right now. So I don't know why they can't come up with a referral program to get a surprise or a couple $100 or a jacket or something. I think that would really get people excited. LiveWire also has no direct sales program targeted at potential buyers. Now, potential buyers are people like, people that own more than one motorcycle and electric car. They need to get a phone call from LiveWire saying, hey, you meet the criteria for somebody who would buy an electric motorcycle. Come on down, test one out, and let's talk about how we can get you to LiveWire. I mean, that type of thing just isn't being done. Now, on the internet, they're running banners and targeting different people in different groups, but they need a, direct marketing, direct contact, telemarketing, send them stuff in the mail. I mean, we know who these people are. If you have more than one motorcycle, you have an electric car, you're probably highly likely to buy a LiveWire if it's presented properly. The other thing too, there's no promotional merchandise for LiveWire. There's no training for LiveWire prospects. A lot of people come into LiveWire and they like it because there's no clutch and gears and they think it's easier to ride, but there's no training program in place to show them how to ride the LiveWire. There's always a problem with motorcycle insurance, especially for young people, and they're coming out with this Del Mar and they want to target it at young people. Well, I have a 20-year-old son now. He first got insured on a motorcycle when he was 15. And I assure you that insuring a teenager on a motorcycle is not cheap, and it's not easy to do. And I think Harley or LiveWire could do a lot if they fix that problem. Now they have fixed the problem on the financing. They have excellent financing with a fast forward, so I mean they have it on the financing side, but they need to also get on the insurance side. The other thing too, there's no social media presence for the Malibu experience. That's the flagship LiveWire store in Malibu, and people are going there all the time and having a good time, and electric motorcycles everywhere, and they need to have a social media page to get people excited about going and visiting and test riding the bikes and hanging out with the LiveWire crowd. So they need to get that done. And then there's no ongoing promotions aimed at people who take test rides. Now, I understand that LiveWire has done over 3,000 test rides nationwide. They have a truck that goes around with the bikes, and we see them on YouTube all the time. It's an excellent program to be able to show people what an excellent motorcycle it really is, but there's no follow-up. I've been on the ride twice. I did get a follow-up from Louis in Malibu, which is the reason I bought the bike. He called me on the phone, but there's no ongoing stuff. Like when gas went to $6 a gallon in California, LiveWire should have contacted all those people with the test rides and say, hey, we realize that fuel costs are really high, so why don't you come in with a LiveWire, and guess what? We'll give you a promo where we'll give you a gift card for the first 10,000 miles of charging free, which would be a couple $100 for 10,000 miles. I mean, you can do all kinds of promos with that base of customers that's already been on the bike, and that's not being done. So I'm just saying that the marketing and the sales needs to be a lot crisper. They need to be selling a lot harder and pushing a lot harder to get these things done, to get the sales numbers up. And I can tell you that at the store level, I mean, the people that I know at the LiveWire store in Malibu, I mean, it seems like they're very anxious to do a lot of this stuff, but they're being, held back. Like, if there's no merchandise, there's no merchandise. I mean, let's get some of this stuff going to get people excited about the motorcycles. Next, we've got incomplete financial statements. Now, by incomplete, I'm sure that they're legal and that they're required for the SEC filings. But if you look at them here, this is just a summary of the basic problem. But when you look at cost of goods sold, they're lumping in engineering expense. So the R&D and everything with the motorcycles is it's all thrown into the cost of goods sold. Now, the problem with that is that from an investor standpoint, you can't tell what the real cost of goods sold is for the motorcycle. So you don't know what kind of gross margin there is. So they need to pull the cost of goods sold out, or I'm sorry, the engineering expense and R&D expense out of the cost of goods sold per unit, because I think that would reflect that there's quite a bit of gross margin in the motorcycle in terms of the raw cost to build it, but based on the sale price. Now, maybe they don't want to do it from a competitive standpoint because they don't want other people to know what it costs to build the bike. But I believe there's good gross margin in the bike, and that they could get out of their problems with selling more of the bike to generate more gross margin against the cost of the R&D. Now, it's currently showing that they're basically selling the bike for what they've got in it with no gross margin. And I think if they pull the gross margin out, it would show a positive number and would show what the path forward is in terms of making the company profitable long term. I also think that the R&D expense that they're allocating to the LiveWire one at this point is, basically technology that can be, brought forward to other bikes in the future. So I don't think that it makes sense to put the R&D cost into the cost of goods sold. The other thing is, there's all kinds of statements here. I mean, this is just a summary page. They have a lot of different financial statements, but they don't have a lot of granularity. And granularity meaning things like their program where they go nationwide and do the test rides on the bike and all that kind of stuff. That's not broken out separately, and that's a very interesting expense because it's one they're using to develop the market. I mean, I think it's a very important program, but they don't break that stuff out separately so you can tell what's really going on. So it's probably the minimum of what they have to report to make the SPAC legal. But I think for investors, it would be a little bit nicer if we had a better understanding of where the money was going. So anyway, enough about that. Next thing I want to talk about is incomplete risk assessment. Now, out of this 1,000 pages on this thing you download, probably 500 of the pages are talking about all the risk and the things that go wrong and how you can lose your money. So I read them all, and you know, they're all fine, but the most likely ones to happen aren't mentioned. And let me tell you what that is, or what I feel it is. First of all, Harley-Davidson may have to discontinue its larger motorcycles in order to meet ever tougher emission standards. Now, to give you an example, you've probably heard of this, but Honda has discontinued the Goldwing. There's no replacement. I mean, that bike's gone, so it can't meet emissions. There's no more Goldwings, okay? Yamaha has discontinued the FJ 1300. There's no replacement for it. Kawasaki has knocked out their big cruiser, the Voyager, and the ZX-10. And these bikes are going away. The R6 has gone away from Yamaha. I mean, these bikes are going away. And what's happening, I mean, Honda doesn't really care because motorcycles are only 10% of their business. Yamaha's got other businesses. Suzuki, most of their business is non-motorcycle business. So, you know, these guys will be fine. They'll just keep making little bikes, maybe little battery-powered scooters. But Harley-Davidson is in the big motorcycle and mid-sized motorcycle segment, and it's questionable about how long they can keep selling these bikes, especially the ones with the air-cooled V-twin engines, you know, like the standard Harleys. I mean, the new ones like the Pan America and the Nightster, I mean, they can probably go for longer, but it's only a matter of time, I think a very short period of time, before Harley may not be able to sell these motorcycles, which puts the whole LiveWire thing at risk because Harley is the one that's the contract manufacturer for LiveWire. Now, the other thing that they don't mention is that LiveWire may attract attention in regard to targeted trade tariffs. Now, Harley keeps, every time, you know, President Trump would, you know, put tariffs on steel coming from Europe, they'd smack Harley-Davidson with tariffs. I think at one point, the tariffs were over a third for Harley-Davidson's going into Europe because Harley-Davidson is a, you know, brand associated with the United States and America and freedom and adventure and all that. So that's the first one to get knocked out. I think that could happen easily to LiveWire because LiveWire is closely associated with Harley-Davidson, and you know, even after the SPAC, they'll be 70 or 75% owned by Harley. So I can see them, excuse me, them being a target internationally. So I think that needs to be added into the prospectus. The next thing I want to mention is exorbitant filing fees. You know, I was reading about what it costs to take a company public on the New York Stock Exchange and the filing fees and everything else. And I guess the SPAC is the cheapest way to do it. But in a lot of cases, even smaller companies, you know, like $10, $20 million a year are spending $1 million on administrative fees for lawyers and accountants to fill out all the forms and do all the reporting to keep the thing legal. I'm just wondering if it's worth it, you know, to be able to raise some money, but then get in a situation where you have a lot more exposure in terms of stockholders, and you have a lot more money you have to spend on filing fees. Okay, so next, I guess that was the last one. So anyway, my point is that, you know, I've read this thing over. The market's in bad shape, SPACs are in bad shape, and we've got a major product with the Del Mar that I believe is set up to be a loser because there's nothing in here to indicate that's going to fast charge. And with Zero going to fast charging, Energica already there, and LiveWire there with LiveWire 1, it just doesn't make any sense at all, and I can see a big train wreck. So I think the answer is to fix the Del Mar, Keep going with LiveWire, learn how to sell it better, maybe refresh it. I saw that Samsung SDI has a new version of the battery pack with 25% more energy. So, I mean, you could put that in the bike or do some things to refresh that and, wait for better market conditions. But I'm concerned that everybody's running down the road and not looking carefully what's going on, especially in terms of the product. So anyway, have a great evening. Bye-bye.